Hello, MGTOWs. Hello, MGTOWs. Let's see if I got my settings right. I don't know. I don't know if you can hear me. Microphone, or it doesn't really have a sound bar or anything, and I can't really see if anybody's in here. These are the new settings I have to get used to, and these new settings are, well, they're a pain in the ass. Let me see. Let me see the new settings. Hello, Bob the Monk. Can you tell me if go back. Can you tell me if oh, so you can hear me fine. That's what I was wondering. I don't have a sound bar on this thing. And with no sound bar, I can't tell anymore, but I'll figure it out. It's not that hard. 10-4 on the sound. Thanks, Bob. Today we're going to talk about incels. We're going to talk about the difference between incels, and we see a lot of these shootings lately, and I was thinking there's one thing that's a common to all these things. I heard Mike DeWine come out, and we had the shooting in Dayton this week, but there was something that struck me as kind of funny, and all these guys get labeled incels. No special effects on the background. No, not today. Well, I could, but I'd have to go around and turn the camera on and everything. So it was just kind of impromptu. So no special effects today. I'm sorry. I'll try to start doing that and thinking about that, of turning the camera on and actually do low lighting and everything, and that would make it more interesting, wouldn't it? Rather than well, I don't know, the lighting that I have is cold lighting. And so with the incel problem, I look at start with Elliot Rodgers. And Elliot Rodgers wasn't an incel. Elliot Rodgers was a product of Hollywood. He was a product of entitlement. Elliot Rodgers was entitled. He believed that he was entitled to that special someone, that perfect 10, the girl that would make all his dreams come through. And Elliot Rodgers had mental issues. And let's put that aside, the mental issues. And then we look at the guy up in Canada. He was not a bad-looking guy. He ran into the group of people. They automatically called him incel. And he wasn't an incel. He may have had mental issues. Now we look at another option here. We look at Adam Lanza. Adam Lanza was an incel. Adam Lanza was what I call he was a disadvantaged male. There was no way he was going to get a good job. And feminism talks about this. There was no glass ceiling for Adam Lanza to bust through. Adam Lanza would start on a job. They would notice that he was mentally ill, or he had character defects, or he had personal defects of looks or size. And Adam Lanza was 6'7", and he was 120 pounds when he died after the Sandy Brook shooting. Adam Lanza was typically an incel. He was a disadvantaged male. That's what I would call an incel. Most of these guys they label as incels are not really truly incels. Incel is a disadvantaged male that has no chance of ever procreating in his life because the female spots character defects or mental defects in him. Elliot Rodgers had none of those mental defects. He had character defects, which was entitlement. The guy up in Canada had character defects. So he was just a nut. Adam Lanza was diagnosed as having several problems in his life. He was 120 pounds. Like I said, he was 6'7". He wasn't eating. His mother was in charge with him. His mother bought him the rifles. There was no way in hell that Adam Lanza could order a rifle in a magazine and pass any of the red flags. All the red flags would go up for one reason. This would happen because Adam Lanza had health care. His father was paying $360,000 a year, and his mother was a single baby mama. And Adam Lanza mother ran him through health care. So he was diagnosed as schizophrenic. There was no way he could buy a gun. The only way he could buy a gun is if his mother bought him the gun, and his mother did buy him the gun, and that's how he got the gun to do that. Now, these other people, now I'm putting together a correlation here, and the correlation here is healthcare, and these two things that you would seem that would seem to be unrelated are indeed related. Now we look at the Dayton shooter. I looked at a picture of the Dayton shooter, and I often anybody in healthcare is trained to notice defects in people that Down syndrome, ADD, all those things. You just notice them. This guy was slow, what we just call slow. He may have had some features of Down syndrome, but what he didn't have, because GM had left that community. Dayton, his father worked at GM, the mother worked at a good job. All those good jobs left. With all those good jobs leaving, he didn't have health care, and healthcare didn't diagnose him. I listened to Mike DeWine today. Mike DeWine's up there saying, "Oh, we got to have new gun laws. All these new gun laws and everything will help us." No gun law in the world is going to help protect you against people that could buy guns unless they are diagnosed by a clinician as being mentally defective and not worthy of having a gun. You have to be disabled. You have to be a disadvantaged male or a disadvantaged female diagnosed by a healthcare clinician, which is psychiatry, or someone in psychiatry, to get those things. So we can talk all day long in the country. We can talk forever in this country about how we're going to have gun laws. But those gun laws, any person that never goes to a healthcare clinician and never gets diagnosed as defective or a violent person or an impulsive person can go buy a gun. You know why they can go buy a gun? Because he's never been diagnosed with any red flags. Now, Mike Devine kind of hit on it today with red flags, but Adam Lanza, I said Adam Lanza was an incel. He was the truest incident of an incel there is. He was a person that was a disadvantaged male, and we have laws that take care of disadvantaged males and everything. But Adam Lanza died 6'7", 120 pounds. He wasn't being fed. He was clearly depressed. There was healthcare clinicians that said, no, this guy should never own a gun. He could not get a gun. His mother bought the guns. His mother bought the guns. She was getting $360,000 a year for child support and alimony, and she bought the guns for him. That's the only reason Sandy Hook happened. Now, Adam Lanza was diagnosed, and he could not get a gun. Now, Mike Duran was saying we're going to have all these new gun laws and everything. We're going to have thousands of new gun laws here. We're going to have and no one's going to be able to buy a gun soon. That's not even, but if people don't have health care, they would never get that diagnosis they need. We can have kids growing up today that go from childhood into adulthood and never fucking see a doctor. And never will get diagnosed. And the people that are supposed to will come back, Joe. Come on back. There you go. I'm freaking the camera out. If they never get diagnosed for everything, then we can have all the gun laws in the world, and it's not going to help us. And it's not going to. So who's supposed to diagnose these things? You can get diagnosed for these problems at your school. You can have a healthcare individual in the school, which they don't pay for anymore. Like when I was going to school, there's always a nurse there. There was always a counselor there. And if I had these kind of issues where I was violent, they would diagnose me. Then we'd go into the red flag system, and I wouldn't be able to buy a gun. I'd be like, oh, well, that would suck for me if that had happened. But the schools no longer have healthcare within the school. They cannot afford nurses and everything because the teachers are being paid. Hello, Taryn. This is the new system. I don't know what's going on out there. This is the new system. I have to get used to it, so I have to do one of these things. Go take a look at how it came out, what came out, what is this, what is blah, blah, blah is going on and everything. So I don't know what they send, if they send notices anymore or not, but we'll find out. I'll find out. And I haven't been on in a few weeks. That's because I'm so upset with the old system. I like the old Hangout system, and it was convenient for me. And but hey, I'll get used to the new one. What we're talking about here is the relationship between healthcare and gun control. Like I said, you can have all the raw laws in the world, but as there's no one to identify these people, and then it's not going to work. Adam, and even with that, you got guys like Elliot Rogers, and you got the guy up in Canada ran the people over in a van attack. They automatically said incel. These people are incels are certain things. An incel is a thing, and that thing hits all the boxes of disadvantaged male. Now, if Adam Lanza was a disadvantaged male, there was no way he was going to get a job. There was no way he was going to be able to go to rise above and bust through the glass ceiling, just like the feminists say, of corporate America. He was not good looking. He could not get that special go salesman job. He could not. He's a disadvantaged male. That's the same thing that the feminists complain about. So when they look, my problem with this whole thing is when I look upon a society, and I go out there and I watch a lot of videos with the liberal side and the right side, and they're screaming all these incels. What's the problem? Why are these shooters doing this? The problems with a few things. The first of all, they're misdiagnosing incel, and incels become a pejorative to call anybody. Elliot Rogers wasn't an incel. The guy up in Canada wasn't an incel. The guy in Dayton was an incel. I can clearly look at him and say that guy has issues. His facial formations. He had Down syndrome. There was something wrong with it. He was a millennial or he was Canadian. I don't know. There was something wrong with him. Adam Lanza, there was something wrong with him. You can tell. You can look at the facial figures. Every healthcare clinician in the world can tell when somebody has Down syndrome. And then they can red flag him and say, this person shouldn't own a gun. And that's how that gets done. Who else is going to do it? Is the school people going to do it? Like I explained, it's not going to get done in the schools. If someone's called out, he beat up his girlfriend 6 times or something. I don't know. He gets, maybe he'll get a red flag. Maybe he'll get identified as a person that should not own a gun. But other than that, we have one system in this world, and that system is a system of psychiatry that we have. And the system of psychiatry that we have is doing a piss poor job, and they're not getting these people diagnosed. Why? Because these people have no health care. Hello, Mr. Will, hello, Terrain, hello, Bob the Monk. I'm just doing this the kind of impromptu. I wanted to see the new system. I wanted to see what was happening, whether I could do an actual live stream on a camera or not. This is the webcam. I'm not really sure. I think I used it once before, and I can see you guys talking. I can see myself. It's got really no other features besides that, unless I turn on the camera and back and turn off the lights, and then I can put my own stuff up. But I'm just too lazy to do that. So I wanted to come on and talk about. The problem, the shooting problem we have. The shooters in America. That seems to be a big problem nowadays with the shooters. And there's reasons why these people do these things. Okay, it's high stress. We live in a high stress society. I can understand the Xers and the millennials and the Zers and the new ones. What are they? The XD. There's a lot of them now with this, and there's not as much opportunity nowadays as there was. Opportunity has a lot to do with how you move up in society and your ability to move up in society. And I like to think that everybody has the ability to move up based on their individual effort on these things. But my problem with these things is when we talk about the incels And we talk about the incels in a very pejorative, very unsympathetic way. Adam Lanza was an incel. That never needed to happen. That should have been diagnosed by a clinician. It's healthcare's fault. It's healthcare's fault, 100% that happened. Now they'll argue that, oh, we can't diagnose these. No, it's your job to diagnose these people. It's their job. Psychiatry's job is to diagnose these people, and we have to start holding people responsible that are responsible for this. In the case of Dayton, yes, GM left. I can't remember the name of the company that all their companies left. It's a lot like this. We used to have Ford. We used to have GM. We used to have Ridge Tool. We used to have Ridge Tool, Ford, GM. We used to have a steel mill at the top of the street. All those things left. Stress is high in our community. Stress is very high in this community. It's a lot like Dayton. There's nothing here anymore. I can sympathize with the young kids, because when I was a young guy, man, I went through 21, 22 jobs before I decided on a job that I liked. I would walk off a job knowing that I can get a job the next day. No, that's me. I'm very tenacious. I know how to get jobs. I'm very tenacious on that. But nowadays, I can't imagine that one of these young kids can go get a job, or they get one of these 20-hour-a-week jobs at McDonald's that doesn't have health care. That doesn't have health care. They have to get two jobs. That means you got to get two jobs to get 40 hours, and neither one of those jobs provide health care. You got to go down to your local health and human service, and then they tell you you make too much money to get the health care from their services because you have two jobs. So you got to pay for so most of these kids are walking around without health care nowadays, and some of these kids are walking around without health care with undiagnosed mental illnesses. Now this goes back to the gun thing. You can have all the gun laws in the world, but they ain't going to help you if no one diagnoses the problem. And he can go and just I can write out a thing. I can have an AR bottom receiver unit delivered to me for $47 today. It will take a 5-day waiting period, and it'll take like a little bit of time to be shipped, but there ain't no problem. There ain't no problem getting it if you don't have no red flags. But as soon as you go into mental health, you'll have a red flag, and that's healthcare, and that's psychiatry, and that's the things these kids aren't getting. So they're two separate things. They're two separate issues in our country that kind of blend together. You would look at one and you would say, oh, well, that doesn't have nothing to do with that other one, the gun things. But I see it does have something to do with it. I see the Dayton kid, he was undiagnosed for that illness he had. You can clearly see it on him. Elliot Rogers was a mental case. Was he going to a clinician? Was he going to a psychiatrist? Did the psychiatrist say, hey, maybe this kid shouldn't own a gun? Who's going to do it? Is it your responsibility? Is it the police's responsibility to identify these people? Are they going to go around and with a flashlight, a thermometer, in a list of questions asking people, are you crazy? No, they're not. It's not their job to do that. And like I said, they no longer do healthcare at schools. They don't have enough funding for a nurse. Or what we used to have a counselor. Every school that I went to, I knew of every school when I was young had a counselor, a school counselor, and their job was psychiatry. It was diagnosing kids that could not make it through school for stress reasons, attention deficit, and all those reasons. So that was their job, to identify these people. But they don't have those people in school anymore because somebody doesn't want to pay for it. Well, I don't want to pay for it either. So we have a gridlock here. How do we get these people? If somebody has an idea, how do you identify these people? Please share it with me, because there seems to be a little, when these politicians talk about identifying these red flags that they talk about on people that shouldn't have gun ownership. Well, please tell me who was supposed to do that. Was it the job of the parents? Was it my job? Were you supposed to be running around out there? with a flashlight looking in people's eyes, take your temperature. I'm going to shove this up your, see if you have a reaction. No, it was the doctors. It was the psychiatrists. But if we don't have health care and things are getting worse in this country, then who's going to do it? Please tell me. I look at all these politicians coming on. They want new gun laws. New gun laws are stupid. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. We got great gun laws. If you're a nut, you can't get a gun. But who's supposed to say that who's a nut and who's not a nut? Who's supposed to say that you're not allowed? And then there's the question, for some reason, my brain goes snap and I can't get a gun. Who's going to protect me in my house? Are you going to come protect me? Are the police going to stand outside my door, make sure someone doesn't break into my house? Or will I be dead if somebody points a gun at me? So there's a lot of questions that arise, and these politicians, they're flippantly talking about this stuff like they have no mind at all. Like they have no mind at all. I listened to Mike DeWine today. He was balancing, he was juggling that whole thing. And he's a Republican. He's supposed to be on the side of the NRA. So he's on this end saying that we need better gun laws. Well, who's going to identify him? And on the other side, he's the anti-healthcare guy. He's that socialist libbies want the healthcare. You can't have healthcare. What about jobs? You get a job with a healthcare. It's your state, Mike DeWine. He's been bragging for 2 years that he brought $200,000 to $400,000, $500,000 jobs into the state, and I don't see one job. Lorraine's still the same way it is. Dayton is still the same way it is. I don't know where all these jobs are, but he wants health care for all these people. What a fucking hypocritical liar. If you don't got a job, you ain't gonna have health care. And that's the way it is, because that shit costs $400, $600 a month in Ohio. Need to decouple healthcare from we need to decouple healthcare from the jobs. If you have a 20-hour job, you can't afford healthcare, and you may be undiagnosed for a lot of things. Now I see this in homelessness too. And the people walk by these people every day, and they go, "Oh man, that guy's crazy." Yes, he's crazy. He's got an undiagnosed mental illness. He may have an infection. He may have some problem in his body that's causing that behavior. Now he ain't got health care. He ain't gonna get treated. He's gonna sit there, and all the people around him, and I see hundreds of people do this a day, walk by that babbling crazy nut and never ask the question, could he have an infection? Could there be a brain illness? Might he have a tumor? And that's why he's acting the way he's acting. Now, we talked about this a little while ago. It's kind of our jobs having friends. If you have a sudden change of personality in your life, you get an infection, you get a staph infection, it starts eating away at your leg or something. You have a sudden change of personality, and all your friends are going, "Ah, ha, ha, I think he's acting like a nut. Let's kick him out of the group." Instead of saying, "Hey, is there a problem?" And that's what MGTOW's for. We're here to say, "Hey, is there a problem? Are you feeling okay? Do you have a cut? Do you have an infection? Is something hurting you where you're going to have this sudden change of personality? And do you have health care? And can we help you get health care?" There's a lot of things we can do as MGTOWs, as friends, as brothers. When you notice these things in your friends, I never allow. When I see my friends come around, and if there's something wrong, if they're talking crazy and they've never talked crazy before, I'm asking questions. I do that with every single one of my friends. But every day, one of us will walk by a bum, walk by a guy that can't make it in society, and say, "Oh, he's a crazy hobo." Well, yeah, maybe he is crazy. And it's the same freaking problem. It's the same problem. It's undiagnosed mental illness. There might be infections. There may be a tumor. There may be a plethora of things that's wrong with him. But unless he gets to that doctor, and gets diagnosed, ain't nothing going to happen. And he's going to die there. And that's murder too. We all murder him. We're all rebel murderers then. Now, these things that seem unrelated in our country, they're very much related together. Our educational system, our healthcare system, our political system. But man, I'm telling you, when I listen to some of these congressmen, it's like their IQ is this freaking big. It's like they got little peanut brains, and they're talking about some obscure, bizarre bull that doesn't mean nothing to nobody unless you're one of those political hack nuts that are crazy already, and you're on the far left or the far right, and you can't seem to drag yourself to the middle and then have if you're one of those people, I think those people shouldn't have guns either. Because you know why? Because they should be diagnosed with mental illnesses. Maybe they should go see health care. And some of our governors, the lack of compassion, the lack of intelligence in these men, it's freaking outstanding. I sit here and I laugh all day at the TV set when these guys start talking. I'm sorry. I took a short break, summer break. It was like summer breeze. I was all hippied out for a while out there in the summer and doing my thing. It was a good break. It was. So I have to learn how to use this new system and get a stream. I have to learn how to OBS, but I am really lazy. And I'll do it one of these days and just pick one up and go, how do I use this? And then figure my way through it. Draft helping men. Hatred towards women. I get accused of that for giving clothing, fresh produce, etc. to vile comments on beta cooks. Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah, if you help a man today, it's like, man, you're given resources that a woman considers as hers too. I mean, they consider that all. That brings up another question. I was reading through sociology, and I put something up about it was what was it called? I can't remember right off bat. It was some sociology page and everything, and scientific sociology or scientific philosophy has been hijacked. We all know it's been hijacked. It's been hijacked by the girls and everything. And there's a commensability problem with this. And I was reading a lot. I read a chapter 9 in Theories of Reality today. And it's about feminism and sociology. And there was a guy back in the day who was Kovac. Kovac, I think his name was Kovac. Let me see. Blah 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 blah. Service. I can't remember his name right off the bat. Let me get back to the live stream. His name was, and he did a hoax on the nation, and he did a hoax on America, and he wrote a scientific paper that was published, and it had all the markings of a sociological far left paper. It was like go feminism. It had every earmark of an incoherent paper too. It was what was it about? What did he name it? It was gravity and something that was totally unrelated in sociology, and they published it. And they published it, and then there was 4 other cases after that when they published it, and it was living proof that maybe empathy doesn't mean a lot. And what they were saying in the theory of reality is there's really no difference between female scientists and male scientists, but empathy doesn't give them a special skill up on, on designating the rules and how the rules of science work. It was an interesting kind of paper. I wanted to go over it one of these days coming up and talk about it. I wanted to bring somebody in, but they took away our rights now to have people in, and I can't figure out. You can do it, and I have to embed something, and I have to work through that special way. Then I can invite people in and do it through the Hangout system, but the Hangout system's no longer working. And that's just the way it is now, and I'll have to figure out a new way to do this. Right now, I can do hit the webcam and come on and do that. And you can see all this just pretty. But today we're talking about incels, and I like to say incel is used way too much as a pejorative anymore, and it's a way to duck the responsibility of. We talk about what we're talking about with incels is we're talking about disadvantaged males. Now, in our society, even the far left and the far right, and the far left and the feminists would say, if they looked at a female that was a disadvantaged female, they would have empathy for her, and they would give her services and benefits, and the society would take care of her. But when it comes down to men, and when it comes down to men that are ugly men, that are disadvantaged men, that are men that wasn't born handsome like me, I'm just fucking pretty. With men that couldn't break that glass ceiling, they're never going to break that glass ceiling. When they come on a job, they're going to be always the low guy. They're going to be those dorky guys. They're going to be the guys that irritate. There's going to be that's an incel. They're not going to mate because the woman's going to look at them and say, there's something wrong with the diversity in him. And it's going to automatically click off the no and everything. And these are disadvantaged men. They have every bit right in this world to be stressed out about their position. The same as feminists are stressed out about their position because they say, oh, we can't break the glass ceiling. We can't do this. And it's the same problem. There's femcells too. Femcells go to work. They're never going to be the ones that are picked for moving up in a country. Men go through this same thing as they're talking about. But incel in itself has been made such a pejorative that it's okay for these men to be disregarded by our country, these men to be disregarded by feminists, these guys to be disregarded and said, oh, they're just those incels. We would rather them die. Why don't they all just commit suicide? That's what they're saying. But we'll just, but on the same end of the bar, you have femcells. You have female disadvantaged people that, oh, they deserve all the benefits. They can bust through. If you just give them some more education, they'll just bust through that glass ceiling. There's a bit of hypocrisy in it when they call them incels, and it bothers me. Like I said, Elliot Roger wasn't an incel. I seen a video today. Some MGTOW made a video, said Elliot Roger's an incel. No, he's not. No, he's super advantaged. His dad made Hollywood movies and his mom was a doctor. He lived in Hollywood, California. He wasn't a bad looking guy. He just was entitled. He thought that he deserved all the women. That's not an incel. An incel's an involuntary celibacy. That means something. When we look at the word, it means something. Why is this person involuntary celibate? Elliot Rogers wasn't involuntary celibate. He could get many women as he wanted. Just stay within his class. I would say that would be 7s, 6s. He had a great car. He has money. He comes from great family and great parents. There's no problem there. He was entitled. He was an entitled little rich kid that thought that he was going to get starlets. And he deserved them. He had a mental illness that said he was going to get starlets. He wasn't an incel. He's not the classic incel case. Adam Lanza now. Adam Lanza is the classic incel case. What made Adam Lanza the classic incel case? Well, he was truly a disadvantaged male. There was no way he was ever going to get a woman. Any woman in this world would look at him and say, no, the diversity was so off in him. There's something about his genetics that women don't want to mate with. which put him in a situation. He was never going to move up in his job. He was never going to move up anywhere in life. He was always going to be on social benefits. We have a lot of men out there like that. We have a lot of men, but it is healthcare's responsibility to diagnose these men. Maybe if they would have done their job with Adam Lanza, maybe if they would have done their job, but there's no responsibility in healthcare. You know why there's no responsibility in healthcare? Because it's a female-dominated field, and they don't have no responsibility. Why is there so much responsibility in policing? Because it's a male-dominated field, and all the responsibility gets on males. Why is there so much responsibility in soldiering? Because it's a male-dominated field. If a bridge falls over in that male-dominated field, then all hell breaks loose and somebody asks who did this thing. But in healthcare, nobody asks anything. You know why? Because it's the same gynocentric problems we always have. You can't hold any of them responsible for doing a pretty shitty job in this country. It's a female-dominated field. We ask why there's so many boys coming out of school that are just really not educated, that they've been tied to a chair and they're on pills all their lives. Why aren't these teachers being held responsible for these uneducated boys that are coming out that aren't going to college? Why? Because it's a female-dominated field. And no one's going to hold them responsible. It's the same thing we say all the time with marriage. It's the same thing we say all the time in MGTOW. Oh, the female, she was just unhappy. She's not being held responsible for getting pregnant. It's her choice 100% whether she gets pregnant now. There's three things that protect her. There's yes means yes and no means no. There's abortion laws. There's laws that you can drop the baby off at the clinic. You don't even ask. They don't even ask anymore. Just drop the baby off. Go away. We'll take care of it. Them are Moses laws. And then the fourth thing is she's got divorce rights. She's got someone taking it. There's no responsibility for him after that. Well, it's a female-dominated marriage. Is a female-dominated field, just like healthcare, just like schooling. What are the three major things that MGTOWs complain about? Well, why is there so much responsibility to be cops? Cops, they have a mega amount of responsibility, not to shoot people, to arrest the right people, to do a great job. There's so much responsibility in law and order. Why is there? Because it's a male-dominated field. Engineers have same responsibilities. Electrical engineers, they don't, oh, I'm sorry, I electrocuted those people. Wow, no responsibility here. No, you will go to freaking jail. Everything in society is dictated that way. And today we're talking about that one specific field, healthcare. But they just don't think they have the responsibility to diagnose people or get people in there or do anything. They just take your money and provide horrible services. And we got shooters running around. Well, that's their problem. How is it their problem? Well, they're supposed to diagnose these people. We have violent people all over our country that was supposed to be diagnosed by some psychiatrist, but they do such a shitty job nowadays. You can go from 10 years old as a psychopath into your adult years, and no one will fucking notice. And then all the people will walk by. Say, that guy's crazy. Everybody notices. No one does nothing about it. I like to think that's where MGTOW comes in. MGTOW's got a little more reasonable. We're a little smarter in here. When I walk by a homeless person, I don't walk away. I ask questions. I try to get them to where they need to be here now. I used to run into those services. I don't do that no more, but at least I care. Would you do that to your friend? If your friend fell sick, would you leave him there and go, hey, man, he must be just crazy? Just kick him off the side of the road and say, hey, You ain't my friend no more. No, you wouldn't do that to someone you love. There's a certain casual cruelty in this world that permeates everything, and it permeates our political system, and it permeates how we act on the internet. It permeates our friendships and our bonds. And that casual cruelty is destroying our nation. We got shooters everywhere. And nobody wants to take responsibility. And we MGTOWs know why they don't want to take responsibility. Because it is a female-dominated field that was given the responsibility that no one's going to hold responsible. Someone should be up there in Dayton right now asking every one of those school teachers that this kid went, and every one of those counselors, what the hell did you do? What the heck? Didn't you see that? This kid went how many years? And you didn't see that. You were with him 8 hours a day and you didn't see that. Somebody should be held responsible for that. And someone should have been held responsible for Elliot Rogers and Adam Lanza and the kid up in Canada. There should be spotted and there should be red flags. But unless there is no red flags and nobody cares and everybody walks by, you can have all the gun laws in the world, and that ain't going to stop him from going out and getting a gun because he'll never be diagnosed. And that was my point today. And that's what I wanted to talk about. There's a breakdown in our political system. And I don't care which end you fall on, it's all of our responsibilities, every single one of us. And both sides are pointing at each other, and both sides are equally responsible. And the only people I see lately having any bit of good sense are MGTOWs. And that's all I wanted to talk about today, guys. I just want to come on. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch myself for 45 minutes, and that's going to be a real bummer because I hate listening to myself. It's like preaching at myself. And like always, men, thanks for coming around. Stop by to say hello. I hope your summer's going as well as mine. It's a beautiful summer. We're going to have a long period of nice days coming up where it's 78 to 80 degrees and totally sunny here. I hope you're having a great summer. And I hope you're doing well in life, and I hope you're being good MGTOWs. And thanks for coming around, and thanks for being MGTOW. MGTOW.